Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back, everyone, to our Doctor Who discussion videos. And I am joined once again by the wonderful Mick Joseph of Cinema Blend. Mick, thank you so much for joining us again.
Thanks for having me. Ellie made the joke I regenerated, but now that I'm back and that she's been proven alive, I think it's a bi-generation. We kind of just split from each other in the middle.
I like this. I was wondering if like every week is a regeneration, but actually you're pulling a David Tennant and you're like, no, I'm hanging on and I'm staying. But yeah, by generation is good as well. Yeah, Ellie out there going like, I will be back. But yes, to all those wondering, Ellie is alive and well. She will be back for the Rogue discussion, and I think, as far as I know, she's just. I'm not even going to mention Rogue for a minute because we'll talk about that at the end.
Okay.
But so this episode has people talking. So let's jump into it straight away. What are overall thoughts, Dot and Bubble? What do you reckon?
Here's the thing. I don't want to step too much on all the things we'll be drilling down on further, but I am semi-embarrassed to admit. I had seen the episode far in advance, and I was waiting for the WhoCulture crew to pop on. You guys watch it all the wee hours of the morning
Mm-hmm.
and have this big discussion. And as I was sitting there, we got to talking, and somebody was like, "Well, yeah, the racism element." And I was like, "Racism?" It's like, "What? There's racism?" And I actually kind of like replied back. I was like, "Oh, I thought they were just like elitist snobs, and I just thought like the whole message was they were idiots." And then all of a sudden, I started seeing the tweets and people were laying it out, and I went back and I was, oh yeah, this is about racism. So I know for some people, I saw the comments that they were like, oh, this was incredibly obvious, like I called it from the start. For me, not at all. I was like, this is a social media episode. This is about giant bug monsters eating, and they got me hook, line, and sinker. I was so drilled down on trying to find the relevance of that, completely just blindsided me. And then now that I saw it, I honestly think my initial feelings about the episode have elevated now that I know kind of the true meaning behind it.
That's really interesting because I don't have a vastly different initial experience from yourself. Now, I did the ending of it straight away. I went, "Oh, this is overt racism." I did, full disclosure, and people who've watched the ups and downs will know this. I thought it was a mix of the two. I thought it was more that the top half of the episode was our echo chambers, our social media bubbles, our very big elitism that then racism played a part of. Then, like that, it was people like, well, did you not see XYZ? And I was just like, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Because I came out of this episode, my initial reaction was that was the weakest episode of the season to date.
Mhm.
I thought, I just, because I found there was no likable characters outside of the Dr. Ruby. So I thought we'd spend all this time trying to save these characters and then, nothing. So like my message being, the Doctor will always try and save the people regardless of whether they're good or bad. That's what the Doctor does. And that is in there. And then I was like, oh, I did manage to miss some of the things that are now. You're just like, oh, so on rewatch, it's completely changed how I've taken the episode. In fact, so I went from being, oh, I mean, okay, walking out of it the first time, to this was the most uncomfortable episode of the season, including the real time boom. I found a more comfortable watch than Dot and Bubble on rewatch.
I would agree. And I would say to viewers and listeners, as two white men sitting here, I think that was the confrontation of like, it kind of shook me a little bit to be like, because I generally, I don't find myself racist. I'm an ally. I watch these shows because I'm in support of those things. And yet it was thrown in my face that you can be oblivious to obvious racism of others right there,
Yeah.
and completely flew over my head. And I was like, wow, it was like, what a learning experience for me. And yeah, it's definitely made me feel better. It elevated the episode for me, like I said.
It is. You said it there. It's like, and as you say as well, yes, as two milk bottle white people, we went
Definitely.
in. I mean, we obviously went in with assumptions. I I would have said to you watching it first, like, oh, kind of, and then, I would have done the ups and downs going, oh, it was clearly the main message being about, we keep to our bubbles, we keep to, we see what we want to see, which is there, but it's more of a tool than the message. And yeah, it's like, guess what, guys? You are I don't want to say guilty, but guilty of, it's not seeing what's happening around you. And that's why when you see that, when I was reading the comments going, how did you not notice that? You ask yourself, oh God, because there is that. Because then, so say for example, the doctor pops up on Lindy's screen, she blocks him instantly.
Right.
Whereas she actually listens to Ruby for a second, and that subtlety, because where I would have gone like, oh, perhaps this is a male female thing, and you're like, oh, okay, so there's one thing that's the first thing you miss straight away, and then she thinks, you will be disciplined after this, and
Right.
one of the most uncomfortable lines on rewatch are Lindy saying to the doctor, oh, are these slug things to do with you?
Right.
And that was
Right.
just like, ah, oh.
It's funny because in context, if you're a Doctor Who fan, it plays off very much in the way that people say microaggressions are. Seemingly innocuous comments that makes sense because it's Doctor Who. The Doctor could be blamed for something because he's the Doctor, and they feel innocent until you get the context, and you're like, wait, they're not. To even go back further, the thing I think that blindsided me was the fact that literally every actor in this episode, but the Doctor, is white. And that I was like, how did I not notice that? How did that not just smack me in the face immediately? And of course, history of past television shows where that was very much a thing. Of course, we've made giant strides of inclusivity and diversity since then. But yeah, just not even something I just felt myself getting more embarrassed the more stuff that popped out because I was like, how did I not know? How did I not know?
I think you're sort of, I can almost imagine, Russell T sitting there smug, when, people are just like, oh, it's about this. And he's just like, you didn't notice. That was sort of the point. And it worked. It worked. Yeah, it was because, so I suppose jumping to the end, which I shouldn't, but I kind of have to speak about the end first. Mine, it was just the utter yuck of everything about the ending. You're like, it's like, how? Hold on. So, this person has directly saved your life, and the idea that you would travel with him is so anathema that, like, and I have to say as well, and this is something that I said in the ups and downs that I realized, Callie played a blinder. Callie Cooke had the most thankless job in the world, which was play this character completely so irredeemable, so irredeemable. And yet there were still moments where I was hoping she wouldn't get eaten by the slugs,
Yeah.
because there's that, because there's she plays her as sort of stupid, but she's not stupid. You kind of see those two things as well. You know what I mean? She's living in her world, and this is the way she does things, and she has her bubble, and yet there is something with it. You have kind of hope for her.
Yeah, I think ironically, you would call her more ignorant than stupid, which I think is sometimes a label used towards racists. They are ignorant people. Most people with lived in experience sometimes, have a different perspective and change their ways. But yeah, no, that's definitely, you feel like, yeah, you are stupid, but it seems like it's a construct of this world you're living in that you don't know how to care for yourself outside of the Stoughton bubble kind of thing.
Yeah, like the thing I still have to say, I think was maybe a bit too far, was she can't walk. That one was just like, all right, you're doing it with the other things you're showing us. The fact she can't walk without being told walk left, walk right, walk forward. But then again, that might be somebody else's favorite bit of the episode. So
So I thought it was funny at first, and then also, but then there was just scenes where she was just walking and running, like it wasn't too much of a problem. So there was definitely some trouble with consistency and like keeping that straight.
There was a little, but I suppose I feel bad for poor Danny now, who's written all these notes for us to follow and everything. And we're just like, kind of, yeah, but uh,
Yeah, no, no, no.
so obviously we're going to come back to the ending again, but now we know obviously it runs all throughout the episode. So the social media, the echo chamber commentary, how well do you think that was achieved?
I think there was a time where I would have said that like the Ricky September bit was just too like corny and stuff and like not representative, but that is 100%. There's so many TikTok influencers now who are exactly like Ricky September's, where literally they're famous because they do a dance and
Mm-hmm.
they do it to a certain song. And I'm guilty of it as well. I have people and I scroll through and I like every time. I'm like, oh, let me like that video of them doing that exact same dance to that exact same song. And Ricky September is just like a perfect version of that, where it's like, you don't even really know anything until she meets him in person. You're just like, oh, this is what he's about. And he's so popular and everyone loves him. But like, really, nobody knows anything about him.
I think you're right. I think we know now that this idea was pitched in 2010 to be an 11th Doctor episode. Obviously, I mean, there's obvious things that would have to change. I mean, obviously have changed, but I think as well, then it would have been more. Would it be more Instagram? Would it be more like, here's the image, here's the image? See, now we're post TikTok. We're certainly during TikTok, but maybe post
It
TikTok.
could maybe be, I don't know when Vine was around. It could have been Vine. It could have
Vine
also
could have
been
been
Vine.
around. Yeah, actually, I think Vine was around. Okay, the question for the comments: when was Vine around? Uh, But yes, this idea. I mean, like I mean, lockdown. I'm probably responsible for half the likes on those dance videos. Um, and I wonder actually, is this an episode that would perhaps hit even harder in lockdown? This idea of you're so secluded from the world around you. Um, I thought the interface that I can easily see that becoming real not too far in the future. If people like Elon get their brain chips sorted out, and kind of, I mean, Google Glass nearly did it. These kind of things. That to me was very realistic. And how we will hide behind this. But yeah, technically you can see the world around you, but if you choose not to look, you won't see it.
Definitely. And it's kind of funny because I feel like a lot of this episode feels like it was shot like a lockdown episode when they had all those restrictions, where
Mm.
it was like you could feasibly see people filming this on a Zoom call, and then you just have one person on a closed set running around in those small portions, just the very limited scenes where you have to have actual people interacting. It definitely felt like something that would have been filmed during lockdown.
I think, yeah. I wonder, like, have they conned us all? Was this actually filmed 4 years ago, and they were just like, we actually have this sitting in the bank? Um, so then, like you said as well about running around, because this is very small sets. You're kind of like, there's Lindy's room, Lindy's office, which is Lindy's room with its bed taken out. Things like that. What did you think of the realization of the world of Fine Time?
Um, it was pretty cool. It was funny. It was just, it was one of those, it had a Black Mirror feel to it. It felt like they definitely were lifting Black Mirror elements from it.
Mm,
Not exactly a Doctor Who aesthetic in all the way. Like even from the time I saw the preview, I was like, that feels like they're copying Black Mirror. That doesn't feel like Doctor Who. The slugs, I would say, are more Doctor Who-ish, but
right.
the overall aesthetic.
Uh, have you seen the image that's been floating around already, which is actually what I'm saying. I think you shared it with me. The slug eating one of the kids. It's just like really bright pastel saying "Eat the rich."
Yes.
Uh,
Yes, great stuff.
huh. Then this the color coded. I mean, colors are bloody everywhere when you think about it. But the color coded images and the windows that they look at, everything is this bright and yet pastel. Yeah, this palette, and it's very, as you say, Black Mirror nosedive. I don't think you can avoid the comparisons between the two of them. I believe Russell has basically said as much. Um, which is fine. As long as you're not out and out stealing anything, we live
Right.
in an era where everything interbleeds. Um, I suppose maybe this is an unfair question, but of the two of them, which one do you prefer? I presume you've seen Nosedive.
Yes. I go Dot and Bubble. Let's say Dot and Bubble.
Yeah, yeah, I think, and not just to keep my job in WhoCulture, but yeah, I think the same. Because of how bloody insidious it is.
Yes.
Nosedive is, I really liked the episode, but it's very much more straightforward than
Mhm.
Dot and Bubble is. Um, there is bits of Dot and Bubble I still didn't like. I'm not sold on the dots going mad.
Yeah, there was a few things. My thing I think I'll save till we get closer to the ending because I feel like it played into how I perceived the whole moment. But yeah, the dots changing. I believe you brought it up. The dots becoming sentient and killing people. I mean, they could have just done that the entire time. You didn't even need the slugs to be involved in the situation.
Yeah, I'm not clear. Are they allied with the slugs? Did they create the slugs? Did the slugs arrive? The dot said handy. You know, I'm not really sure how that. And then, if the slugs have destroyed all of the home world, how did they get into Finetime? Did the slugs create Finetime? Are they farming the children?
I
Um,
there's so much. I feel okay. We can revisit this at the ending because it plays into my whole gripe, and I think I understand. It explains it, and then also okay, we can just get into that.
well, we must discuss Ricky September. I mean, as you say, I mean, we have all seen those influencers that they do their dance, they make their millions, fair play, and then we meet Ricky, and you're like, oh, you're a person. You know, you're like you were like, oh, okay, right. So you're doing your job, which is as he says, I've done my few videos, I upload them in the morning, and then I chill out, I read books, I relax, and he then fills this role that the Doctor normally fills for a while, and again, the reaction Lindy has to Ricky versus the reaction Lindy has to the Doctor is incredibly obvious.
Right.
But then, do you know what? Somebody pointed out to me as well. It's like, yeah, great. Ricky seems to be this level-headed character who we like, and is going to help everyone. And then somebody goes, yeah, but if Ricky met the Doctor at the end, Ricky would be exactly the same as Lindy.
See, here's oh man, gosh, once we get to that point, there's just so much I gotta say. But overall, on Ricky September, the it's funny to see, and I almost wish I would have spent more time on it. The weird feeling of meeting someone that you've seen online a lot is there's no avoiding that. I mean, you and I have talked so many times. We've never met each other in person.
Yeah.
And I've had that experience with many other people. And when you see them for the first time, there's so much you're like, oh, I've only realized that I've only seen you from the shoulders up my entire life. Now I know how tall
You
you
got
are. I
legs?
know, yeah, I can see what clothes you're wearing. It's a different experience. It feels familiar, but at the same time, I don't know. It's a weird feeling. And I wish Lindy would have hit on that more, like maybe commenting that he looks more handsome in person or something like that. Most people say my voice is higher than what they thought it was. It's like that's not something you say to people that's nice. Like say that to me.
It's great. I mean, I'm going to say I really enjoy the deep vocal synthesizer you use when you're joining these calls. There like one of the few nice moments of the episode is when she talks about, this was her first hug ever, and Russell sneaking in there as well, Ricky asking for consent, which is like, I appreciate little moments like this. Just wish any of the characters had been nicer. But is it okay if I give you a hug? She's like, oh, it's my first hug ever. It was great. And
There's
it's
there's so
those
much on
little
that.
moments. Those little moments where I'm just like, oh, hang on, is there a human being inside of there? Um, and when we get down, we follow Ricky. Ricky is very the Doctor, because when Ricky discovers the truth, he lies, and that's very the Doctor.
Yeah. Yeah. The Ricky has very doctor-esque qualities. And yeah, I don't know if he's just when I think about him in the context of the episode, knowing what we know, is it because he's the rebellious, like, like how rich kids become hippies despite their $1 million mansions kind of thing? or is he genuine and a truly a changed person because of the things that he experiences and lives?
Obviously, the hope is that he is the one who's on the way to seeing what the real world is around him. Kind of presented with he's not using the bubble. He's learning to look beyond. The sad thing is we will never know, because of Lindy. Um, that was when you were watching it. How so that scene. What was your reaction to that?
This is I feel I just got to get into it now. We just got to get into it. This is what I feel like made the message land weird for me at the end and made me oblivious to the racism. I was so concerned thinking that Lindy was trying to cover up that she threw Ricky September under the bus and had him killed, that the whole racism overtones completely took me by surprise. Like I did, I just wasn't paying attention to that because I thought the Doctor and Ruby are weird because they know Ricky was fine before the bubble disconnected, and then all of a sudden she's on the other side and she's not really wanting to talk about it. So I think I was measuring my expectations the other way, thinking like they were going to have some aha moment where they discovered Ricky wasn't okay. But here's what I will say in defense of Ricky September. Um, I believe that Ricky September would have not been racist. I think, first off, he has a very brief interaction with the doctor, and he's cordial and he's nice. And I also appreciated Ruby fixing her hair and trying to look all done up for Ricky September in their brief interaction. She's like getting all like ready to address him. That was great. But and this is why I think Russell thinks that, because Lindy killing Ricky September to protect herself is an evil thing and kind of hints that she may not be the best person.
Mm.
But I don't really see a need for Ricky to die unless there was a chance Ricky would have tried to plead with them to also go with the doctor. So you fix the problem by having Ricky die before she goes into the room. That way there's no one to speak out against or try to hear him out.
I wonder, yeah, was it the double barrel of that? Because at that point I wrote Lindy off in my head, so that's before she even walks through the door. But the other one of just like, listen, we've only got 10 minutes left, you know, um,
Mhm.
kind of like, and trying to we're not bringing somebody else with us. That's kind of the point of the ending, is nobody goes with them. So I think you might be right, because killing him, it makes her completely irredeemable.
Mhm.
Um, so it's not that the ending doesn't hit. Bloody hell, it does. Um, but it's kind of like, oh, you're the worst. Oh, it gets worse.
Mhm.
Oh no. Like, you're the worst. And then as we discover, I kind of get the feeling that in that final scene, you learn any one of them would have stepped over any of them to survive. That, yeah, like that, you're kind of like, oh, this kind of this fake kumbaya of like, oh, we're all together, all of our members of Finetime, we've escaped, we've survived. And of course, they're all as bad as each other, as we can see in their interactions with the doctor. Is that just what people do on this planet? Was Ricky the outlier? That he
Right.
tried to help Lindy. I suppose before we get, as we already have discussed the ending, that see, I didn't realize at the time, of course, that scene of Ruby and the Doctor was the first scene they filmed together.
Yeah. That's hell of a scene
Yeah,
to do. Ncuti Gatwa's first day on the set, and he has to deliver an emotional speech tied to racism. Imagine doing that first day on the job in Doctor Who.
like, Russell, are you okay? Like, yeah, just the poor man's only just started. But I mean, considering that's day, however many days it took to film, but considering that's day one, bloody hell, Ncuti Gatwa in that scene is just. I mean, because I felt he was so. I think I phrased it, the ups and downs of the. Are you me about the reactions around? Like, it's because a few people have said in the comments, well, like, so yes, 15 cries a bit, nothing wrong with that, But in this
Right.
scene, you see the tears, and I thought those tears are not for him. It's the tears of utter indignation, frustration, surprise for them that they would live such a stupid, ignorant existence that, even after however bloody old the doctor is at this point, there's God, who has a definitive number for how old the doctor is? But after that many years, he can still meet people who can shock him with their stupidity like that.
Yeah, I mean, Shitty Gatwa, he's just I don't think I've ever immediately resonated with a doctor as quickly as I have his. His acting is phenomenal.
Mm.
He puts a lot of emotion into what he does, but I feel like he's very representative of the times that we're in. He's not just someone who's good at playing the doctor. Him, and Millie Gibson, they represent, I feel like, the younger Gen Z generation and the shifting times in the world in a way that we haven't seen with the doctor in a very long time. They just feel so of this time while still being out of time. At the same time, it feels like Doctor Who really hitting on cultural relevance, which is great. When sci-fi hits cultural relevance, that's when it speaks to people the most.
I completely agree. Like, if what is sci-fi but just real life with spaceships? I'm generalizing, and when it can do that in such a way that, I mean, what was it? Somebody commented. I apologize for not knowing the username. Called this episode "Let That Be Your Last Bubble Field," and I thought that is an amazing description for taking something as depressingly everyday as the myself and Danny were talking, the banality of racism and the
Mhm.
banality of ignorance, and putting it front and center, so much so that I managed to get toward the last act of the episode and go, and even on first watch, I didn't get that that's what I'd been
Mhm.
watching for the whole time. And on rewatch, you like, as we said, how did you miss this? Because it's the everyday of it all, and I think it's very telling that Ruby has the first overt reaction. The Doctor gets it like that, right? You can see that in Shooty, but it's Ruby. I think Ruby says something like, "Oh my God," and she kind of turns away and she puts her hand on his arm, and because I think he is so disappointed that, like, he has his outburst and it's incredible, but I think Ruby's more surprised than the Doctor is.
The Doctor's been around for a long time. Also, Gallifreyan by nature, so maybe the concept, humans reacting to racism may have a little bit more vitriol than a thousand-year-old Time Lord.
Mm.
But I feel like he expresses the frustration of refusing to help people who he knows is most assuredly going to die. When he's like, I don't care. Just let me help you. We know how much the doctor hates when he can't help someone and he feels powerless. And that is that scene where he realizes, like, damn it, they don't like the color of my skin, and there's nothing I can say, and they're just gonna go to the woods and die. And I just gotta let it happen, I guess.
Yeah, that was myself and Danny were talking, like, part of us, we want to see them get their comeuppance, have the slugs waiting on the other side of that waterfall. I do think in that moment it would have come across as perhaps comedic, and it was the entire wrong tone to do that. I think it's enough to know that they're not making it out of there, and yeah, I think the scene as is works. I mean, this is a deeply uncomfortable episode. And I like, it is one that, it's designed for a rewatch. I don't want to rewatch it, but I will. Um, and I have a feeling that I'm gonna, sort of, now that I know, I will of course be keyed to keep my eyes open a bit more, which I think possibly is one of the messages. It's like, it was all there. You didn't see it. It was all there.
Yeah, spot the signs. Spot the
Mm.
signs. Be aware the next time it pops up. Yeah, no, I totally agree with you in the fact that I would say Outside of the church on Ruby Road, because every year I just love just binging through a bunch of Doctor Who Christmas specials around the holidays. This is probably the most rewatchable of the ones that we've seen so far that I know at some point I will be rewatching it just because it's just such a powerful one that you want to revisit.
So, first of all, ranking. So we have our ranking from last week. So we're pretty similar overall with how our rankings are. Where does Dot and Bubble fit for you?
Oof, man. So I hyped it up and I think it's a very memorable episode. Would I put it above 73 yards? I don't know. And I think I will move the devil. So I'll go 73 yards, Dot and Bubble, Devil's Cord, Boom, Church on Ruby Road, and Space Babies. That's my ranking best to great, I'll
Yeah,
say.
I think right. So because ours are really similar. So if I'm ranking by the episodes I enjoyed watching the most, I would put Dot and Bubble down the bottom. If I rank it on which one I think is the best episode well made, I mean I have Boom in at number one there.
Mhm.
Um, this is number I'm gonna yeah number two. Boom is number one. Don Bubble number two. 73 yards. Devil's Cord. Ruby Road. Space Babies. And
Solid.
I did
Just
not when I was doing the ups and downs even I didn't expect that to be the ranking.
I will say my ranking is influenced by the fact I have seen an advanced screener of Rogue, and I know that Dot and Bubble will eventually be my three spot because not to overhype, but I think Rogue is going to fall in a lot of people's top two spot.
So that is it. So normally, obviously, what we'll do with this, boys, we'll go through the preview for next week. But you've seen Rogue. I have not seen Rogue. So
Yes.
what completely spoiler free things can you say that we can leave to tantalize the poor audience who are like, sorry, what?
Yes. Gosh, there's so much. I won't spoil anything for anybody, but I can say that you've seen the preview. It's, as Ruby says, very Bridgerton. They're in a Victorian kind of thing. And there is things that will happen that will have people all over the internet. And I think it will have a lasting impact on the series overall.
Okay, okay. I did like that there's owl people.
Yes.
Yes.
They look like not to do the crossover to Trek culture here, but they look like the owl species in that one episode of Lower Decks was the first thing I saw. They looked like a live action of those owl people.
I know that we're going to see written by Mike McMahon. Okay, well I'm totally interested because I really like Jonathan Groff. I'm glad that he's popping up in more and more and more things. I really like Indira Varma. So I'm really interested to see what role she plays, how she connects to the Doctor, to Ruby, and I want to know why is 14's face sitting there on a hologram in the trailer? Do you know what I mean?
I'm not spoiling anything, but I will say there's a scene that reminds me of the classic Davies era of Doctor Who. And I think people, when they watch, they will know what I'm referring to. But it's just one of those things that he used to do. It's just one of the cheeky things of him being a showrunner that we haven't had in Doctor Who that I just love that he incorporated it into the episode.
Okay, well, I am mad with curiosity already, so I can't wait to watch it. Um, so that sort of wraps up everything so far. Just a really quick thing, just before we started recording this, the news broke that William Russell had passed away. I just wanted to take a second just to remember. I mean, Ian Chesterton or Chesterton. That's a tongue twister. He's right there, an unearthly child with Susan and Barbara. What a life! I mean, that man lived, and of course, he was in Doctor Who again. The Power of the Doctor. So I think he must hold the record for longest gap between appearances.
Yeah, I would say so. It's quite a stretch.
So just obviously you were talking, but our condolences to his family. What an incredible actor, and may he rest in peace. And kind of thank you for the legacy that he has left within Doctor Who. Mick, you're a star. Everyone, thank you so much for watching along. We will be back with the ups and downs for Rogue. Will be coming first. You're awesome. And until then, keep everything wibbly wobbly.
Bye.